Oh, see, I told you I was pretty good at that, Husky. Woo! Oh, baby, baby. Man, wow. Cruncher spawning in the top right position as the blue Protoss. And in the bottom left, we have MYM.Mondragon as the red Zerg, exact positions where Cruncher crushed Idra with that very strong play. We'll likely be expecting a long-term macro game. And, you know, Mondragon, I think, known for poking all those little holes with his aggression, with his dropping, going to have a lot more of a problem on this map because, hell, look at that natural expansion. That is the smallest choke to any natural, I think, in all of SC2.
And Sean, you were mentioning in the last game that Cruncher didn't feel very confident on that map, and you did give a couple of reasons as to why. So going into game number 2, usually we'll talk about really quick, like, oh, you're not feeling very good after losing that first game, you never want to lose a game, etc., etc. But how do you think he's feeling here on this map, which is a map that he's very well experienced with, has had a lot of success with? Do you think he's going to be much more confident on this map than he was on the last one?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that Cruncher has practiced this map a lot, that it attunes well with his style, and we're already seeing that forward pylon gearing up to do some kind of early expand, or as Cruncher has done from every now and again, do the very fast one Stargate into expand play. Doesn't get any gateway units really, just goes Forge, Gateway, Core, Stargate, and then Expo. But it looks like with that Forge going down right now, could potentially end up seeing just a regular old early Expo.
Yeah, and the nice thing about getting a Stargate either on 2 base or right before you expand is that against most Zergs, it will scare them from doing too much of an attack because, well, you have no units that can attack air for quite a while, having to go up to that lair tech with the Hydralisk. But with Mondragon, that doesn't seem to be an issue at all ever. He just masses up roaches and says, okay, go ahead and zap me. During that time, I'm going to kill your entire army and your base, so that seems like a pretty good trade here. And the Forge is now completed. Nexus going to go down before the cannons do, just based on the timing that Cruncher is spotting of what his opponent's doing. He says, okay, well, I can get down my own expansion first. Isn't able to block the expansion from Mondragon for very long, though.
Might not have been part of Cruncher's plan. I mean, you always have to keep in mind, whenever you build that first pylon, it delays one of your key structures by quite some time. So if you don't have that as part of your plan, it can really, really mess things up. So some Protosses just go for the gentle pressure of circling around for a little while. We see Cruncher moving this probe up to a fairly unusual location up by one of the center expansions, perhaps for a delayed scout. Either way, Cruncher cleverly building Gateway before Cannon, so that way he can tech just a little bit faster. One assimilator is down right now, and natural expansion almost done.
So in about 8.5 minutes, we'll see if this Overlord does spot that probe that's just kind of chilling out right there. Not sure exactly what his plan is going to be for that. And also, it'll be interesting to see if Cruncher decides to go for that second cannon. A lot of times you'll see a fast expanding Protoss. I mean, the decision is always, do I get a second cannon to play it a little more safe, or do I only get one and risk having a roach bust at my main base? And I mean, right now, Mondragon is not canceling his hatchery, not throwing down a roach horn or anything like that. So it looks like for the time being, Cruncher will be okay sitting on that 2 base, which is going to be very comfortable for him because that's the style of play he's really starting to make himself known for, just sitting back at least on the 2 base, trying to get his maxed out army with those Void Rays. Wouldn't be surprised to see that moving forward here.
We do see that Cybernetics Core finishing. No warp gate getting started at all. Looks like he's saving up for that classic Void Ray play. Always love getting a very fast Void Ray when you early expand. Helps you cut back on the Zerg's third. There's that Overlord, seems to be moving right over that probe's old hiding spot at the top side of the map. And indeed, there's the Stargate going down right now. One Stalker getting chrono boosted as well. That Stalker is going to be the anti-scout Stalker, going to try to pick off any Overlord it does find. And Mondragon looks like he is positioning some Overlords to do exactly that.
Yeah, the one important thing for Zerg players to do is to have at least 2 Overlords in position. A lot of times you'll see a Zerg player scout between the 6 and 8 minute mark, although judging by what the Zerg player knows already, just going by his game sense, he most likely knows that there's going to be a Stargate at the natural. That seems to be extremely common for Protoss players to do that, although a smart player will still scout, and he's trying, you can see him scouting around with that Overlord along the very edge of the map, seeing if he can get lucky to spot anything. Don't know if that Stalker is going to take him out or not, but he still hasn't spotted that Stargate for sure. But Mondragon held off any sort of Void Ray push from the last game quite easily. You can see the Roach Warren on the way right now, and he does have that classic 3 Queens, so 1 Void Ray just isn't going to be enough to do any sort of massive harassment.
And look at that forward queen just blocking anything that comes in the front. Also planting down tons of creep tumors, trying to expand that creep as rapidly as possible. First Void Ray just now popping out. We have the Phoenix immediately getting produced afterwards, and CrunCher getting very quick 2 assimilators. Again, a big sign that future tech is going down. And look at this, just charging up on the backdoor rocks. This is the exact style that we saw CrunCher do against Idra. Going to be going for a very fast backdoor expansion. And look at this, already getting the robotics facility before adding on any more gateways. The Colossus Stargate mix, very, very tough to deal with on this map. Meanwhile, Mondragon going for the burrow tunneling claws play can be somewhat effective, but you always have to be wary of breaking the opponent's front if he does have a lot of, sentries up, if the Void Rays are finished, if the Colossus is hanging out on the high ground. That's part of the reason why CrunCher should be very happy to be playing on this map. It's so easy to just defend.
And the one thing that I was watching Mondragon do there that was kind of cool is that he did lose that first scouting overlord, unfortunately, without gathering too much intelligence, but that second overlord was positioned as far away from those rocks as possible, but still just barely being able to tell if those rocks were being destroyed or not, and just something that small can tell you what your opponent's plan is going further and further into the game. So he knows that there's a high chance of CrunCher expanding back there, and then he did morph that into an Overseer, so he can kind of scout around. So Mondragon doing lots of little things to keep track of exactly what CrunCher is going to be doing. He does have his tunneling claws on the way, as well as a couple additional roaches, staying on top of his creep spreading as well with those 2 queens, and 2 Phoenix not going to be able to take that on no matter how many times you can pick those queens up. And it looks like CrunCher is continuing to produce Phoenix here. He does have 3, and I believe a 4th one just spawned now, so just sitting at that 4 Phoenix number that we've seen a lot of players do, and we'll see if he can do some harassment with these.
And there's that very fast third base going down at the reverse smiley face expansion. Now, if we take a look back at Mondragon's base, he's doing a technique that's very, very smart. He waited a very long time to take that third hatch. As we see, the third hatchery is only just now getting backed up by creeps, so it is only just now able to be defended by queens. So Mondragon appropriately saying, yeah, I'm not going to risk the early third hatch that I cannot defend. So in the meantime, Mondragon got 2 very fast evolution chambers in response, so that way he can upgrade his roaches to be a lot stronger. We see that speed overlord upgrade is done. No ventral sacks incoming, but still, he's going to have a very potent roach army very soon.
Looking at the units tab, it is going to be 2 Void Rays, 4 Phoenix, and a very minuscule ground army, which Mondragon's moving out with some of his roaches here. The Phoenix trying to pick them up to do the damage. You really need the Void Rays there, though. And how do you think this is boding for Mondragon right now? Because his expansion timing, you said, was delayed quite a bit. Is he going to have to do damage here, or will he have to try to mass expand to catch up now? Because if CrunCher's sitting on 3 base, it does seem like that will be a very powerful position for him.
Well, what was so cool about that move by Mondragon is look at the positioning of the Phoenixes and Void Rays. Sitting outside the front, passive, doing nothing. And as a result, Mondragon now at the top left destructible rocks, beginning to pick those away. That move with all those roaches across the middle was just to distract those air units that could deal damage, and more importantly, that could scout this roach push coming. And now CrunCher realizes it and is sending all of his units over there to be able to hold it off. But the destructible rocks are already very low on health, just now hitting 400, almost at 300, and will be knocked down very shortly.
He does burrow those as CrunCher has moved his entire army, so expect a possible counterattack inside the main base, or inside that main natural. You can see a lot of roaches rallying over there. CrunCher sending his entire force to defend against really what's a handful of roaches, when now he is going to have a lot of roaches outside of his main base. Phenomenal play here so far by Mondragon, really taking advantage of the situation, and is going to be running up here. May get that forge once again, seconds before that possible attack is going to finish. The force fields are going to try and protect it here, but he has a lot of pressure being put on him right now.
And it looks like he just barely manages to push them off that forge, but the forge falls, and there goes Mondragon rushing and ripping through those sentries, now target firing all of those cannons. There's queens everywhere on the map. 5 queens out on the screen right now. Looks like the Void Ray Phoenix going to be able to lift them up, and the attack at the front is slowly dwindling away, but now Mondragon moving into the backside with CrunCher with some amazing defensive play. Looks like he is going to be able to lock it down easily.
Really got to hand it to CrunCher in those battles. Looking at the supply counts, you may not realize it's a really close battle as far as those are concerned. 125 for Mondragon, a lot of those being units that he just began producing, and it is 120 for coRcrunCher. Look at how many cannons he has at this third base. You can tell he really is not caring about a fourth base. He's going to rely on getting out a lot of units and moving out once he's near, or once he feels comfortable that his big ball of Protoss units is where he needs it to be. He has 5 cannons being produced right now, a Colossus just spawning, as well as that Thermal Lance upgrade on the way. The Queens in the middle are finally going to get taken out here. Look at how he picks up both of them, not only so they aren't DPSing his army, but so that they can't heal each other. At the same time, though, there is going to be a drop inside the main base of coRcrunCher right now. He is in a defensive position to deal with this. There is only roaches in these Overlords. A lot of Immortals here are going to be able to clean this up just fine, as well as the Void Rays getting fully charged on this. Looks like MYM.Mondragon is forced to retreat. He's trying to repeat the success that he had in the last game. Hasn't been able to do it here so far, though, in game number 2.
And it looks like he loses one Overlord, almost 2, trying to pull back, but coRcrunCher, who was looking so up against the wall moments ago, now really starting to spring forward, and man, those are a lot of cannons. 8 cannons at that choke up at the north base, a lot of creepers in the middle trying to extend forward, and MYM.Mondragon is just trying to be as relentless as possible. The real danger for coRcrunCher is the fact that MYM.Mondragon is almost done with the Spire there. Now it just finishes, so a whole strong swell of Corruptors could come up, cut off all those air units and Colossi from defending those separated expansions, and drop play could become a much bigger threat.
Right now, MYM.Mondragon is sitting on 2,000 resources, 900 gas. Curious to see what he decides to use it on. He's continuing to produce roaches, which are a very cost-effective unit, and they also max out your supply extremely quickly. So don't let these supply counts be too misleading, as MYM.Mondragon was behind in supply just moments ago, and since then, all he has really made is roaches. You can see 12 more roaches on the way, and if you take a gander at the army of coRcrunCher right outside his natural, or inside of his natural rather, he is starting to get the units that he needs versus that. He hasn't made, however, very many Colossus. He only has 2 Colossus, now just starting a third one, so he is not having as many Colossus as he would like in this situation, and it seems really, like you're saying, Sean, MYM.Mondragon trying to be super aggressive here, and has only taken his 4th right now. Another drop here is going to get intercepted by these Phoenix and the Void Rays, forced to unload right there. So once again, coRcrunCher delaying these drops, doing a really good job in this defensive position that he's in.
I can't believe coRcrunCher's actually trying to go for this expansion at the bottom right. A really bold play, but at the same time, very, very smart. Warping in 4 sentries. Here comes a huge push from MYM.Mondragon. He's going to be able to force field it in time. No, he is not. He was not looking in the right place at the right time. See you later, bottom right Expo. MYM.Mondragon maybe gets a little bit of a lead thanks to that, but once all these units come over to that expansion, MYM.Mondragon is going to be right back onto the back foot again.
Now, thankfully for coRcrunCher, he did not cancel that expansion. He did lose a lot of resources canceling all those cannons. Here's another drop that's going to be intercepted in the same exact spot as last one. The Overlord's making a mad dash to try and make it to the expansion. The Phoenix is pressing that fire button as quickly as they can. There is going to be a Colossus here to intercept this as well. More Stalkers warping in for that anti-air. I don't know if this drop is going to be super effective, although he may be able to snipe that Colossus right now somehow, just through perseverance alone, is able to finally drop this expansion. A lot of probes are getting taken out here, and the cannons on the left side not doing that much as the probes are forced to evacuate, although here come the Void Rays to try and hold this off. So again, MYM.Mondragon is making coRcrunCher run all over, and the expansion is going down in the center right side as well.
I can't believe coRcrunCher let that expansion finish after all this aggression that MYM.Mondragon is unleashing, and somehow the almost impenetrable defense of coRcrunCher is actually starting to show a couple signs of weakness. You never see Zergs be this aggressive with dropping, expanding. Look at MYM.Mondragon taking the bottom right, taking the center bottom Expo, and coRcrunCher is pretty much being committed to this defensive play. 6 Corruptors getting produced as well in that unit counting station. We see coRcrunCher just now getting back up to that 70 probe count when he was battered down, and there are a lot of Corruptors out on the field. You can see 7 and 10 more under production. He could easily rip apart this army with some more well-timed drops.
Here comes one of those drops right now, Sean, in the top center. 4 Overlords are full of those units. That is not an 8 Overlord drop. Some of those are just there for distraction, and it looks like he's going to drop up here. There's absolutely nothing in position to deal with this. There is one of his Stargates there, which may get taken out, but there is going to be a battle in the center of the map as well. Those Corruptors are doing a lot of damage to these air units. The Colossus now just running directly to the Corruptors. Don't think that coRcrunCher was quite watching that there, as he is going to lose the expansion in the top center with a lot of minerals there remaining to be mined. And I have got to hand it to MYM.Mondragon this game. He is showing tip-top form against a Protoss who is sitting back, whose whole build decisions are based around being able to defend, and he's having such a hard time doing it against MYM.Mondragon right now.
And we're seeing Mutalisk get made by Mondragon as well. Wants to do more harassment now that he's feeling comfortable in terms of air control. There's a lot of Overlords caught at that north side, though. Quite vulnerable, but we see more roaches from Mondragon almost take down a Colossus at that natural expansion. There they are, finally now pulling back. CrunCher trying to take that Expo on the right, but we're really seeing the value of an extremely aggressive Zerg. We're even seeing the Contaminate in the north position on that Stargate. Mondragon now bringing 2 more roaches, which is probably going to try to clean up that Stargate, prevent any more from being produced there, but quick warping from CrunCher is going to heal it. Nope, there's another Contaminate on that one Stargate. And if we look at the army tab, we see that the entire army from CrunCher is basically the Void Rays and the Colossus. Now there's 7 Stalkers out on the field, but still, very few standard units for CrunCher.
I'm watching a very amusing thing here at the 4th base of CrunCher. He's trying to kill this burrowed roach with 1 Stalker. The Stalker cannot even kill it fast enough because of that extra regeneration of that roach. So really, it's just like hitting him with a fly swatter, not doing a lot. Here comes some roaches right now to try and take this out. Looks like there will be enough cannons here to hold this off as CrunCher is battling a huge battle in the center of the map now, with the Void Rays all getting taken out by the Corruptors, which is going to leave the Colossus even more vulnerable here. The supply counts show the Zerg player still safely ahead, although he is now on the back foot. This looks like it is going to be the first push this entire game from CrunCher, but it's not as powerful as he would like it to be, as he's also getting delayed by these creep tumors, which is just buying Mondragon valuable time.
We see Mondragon even still loading up an Overlord at that rally point, but he's going to have to probably play a little bit defensive for just a moment. Oh no, a couple of roaches going off, doing their own thing. Mondragon needs to wait for his flood of roaches to finish from all his hatcheries. This is a very intimidating push by CrunCher. Here come the Mutalisks and the Corruptors to try to deal as much damage as possible. CrunCher has just a few too many units, and there's the good game. CrunCher, who was getting battered apart all game long, manages to hold on. Everything finally got up and running, and with one strong push, just snapped Mondragon.
Yeah, Mondragon never having enough units to completely finish off his opponent. He was doing so much economic damage to CrunCher that I think CrunCher eventually realized, look, if he drops that 4th base again, he's just going to get way ahead of me in these expansions. I still am looking at the replay, and Mondragon was on 5 base versus a 4 base Protoss, the expansion, the 4th base, just getting up and running there. And so I think CrunCher realized I have got to do something here. I'm rebuilding way too many Nexus, and I've got to try and punish my opponent. That's exactly what he did there, was able to rally all of his troops together at once. I'm looking around, and he literally had every single attacking unit in that push. So if there was a counter drop or something, he would not have had anything in position to deal with it. And again, that is CrunCher's style of play, liking to get that huge army and pushing out. But Mondragon, his harassment was so good, but apparently he just did not have enough to defend in that last attack. He did have 77 drones, similar to the last game where he had a lot of drones, and just apparently CrunCher found a nice window of opportunity there, and he took it. So it is going to tie this up 1-1 after a pretty, I would say, close game, especially with that super aggressive style of Mondragon.
But I think it's very exciting to see both styles from each player. Mondragon with the crazy aggression that I think makes a lot of Zergs go, wow, I'm not using drops that much. Makes you realize that just controlling the center as Zerg immediately makes both of those expansions from Protoss so vulnerable. And at the same time, CrunCher had amazing defensive play, carefully re-expanding, carefully building cannons, and just waiting until he finally felt stable enough to move out. And you saw that it was just one attack was all it took to take down Mondragon. So really, if I'm in Mondragon's shoes, I'm thinking to myself that, man, I need to make just a couple more drones, maybe transition just a little bit faster to those Corruptors, and I'll be able to take out CrunCher, who's in top form. The next map is going to be Tal'Darim Altar. This is a very large map, so it's going to, again, favor the big, long macro games, and we've seen CrunCher do his early expand, Void Ray, Colossus, Gateway pushes with a lot of efficiency on this map. So Mondragon will have to try to find some more holes for dropping if he wants to be able to pull ahead, or just go into big mass expanding mode.
Yeah, it is, as we mentioned before, it is tied up here, so I'm always a greedy caster. I love casting as much StarCraft as possible, so we are guaranteed 4 games here, which for me is just kind of a blissful heaven. We will see if it's going to go to a Game 5. I'm really curious to see if CrunCher is going to go with what he has been successful so far with in the series with that macro defensive style play, or if he is going to go for some sort of crazy, kind of warp gate rush or something like that, just to throw Mondragon off of his game here in game number 3. But it is Tal'Darim Altar, which is a ginormous map, and it is pretty easy to secure your third base for either player here. And again, judging on the spawn locations will play a huge role in the build orders they go, but we mentioned it before, the expansions are all pointing towards the center, so that means that players are able to do any handful of builds here. It's not dictated by your spawn locations alone. So I think that's all I really have to say here. After game number 2, I'm excited to see it tied up, just because that means more StarCraft action for all the StarCraft nerds and nerdettes out there. So, Sean, do you want to take us away to the very exciting commercial break right now? Is that what we're doing?
I have never been more ready to let everyone know that this series is tied up 1-1 between Complexity's CrunCher and Meet Your Maker's Mondragon. We'll be going into Game 3 on Tal'Darim Altar right now.